Disruptions, a video podcast where we talk about the ish that happens along the road to business success and how to keep pushing through it. And now, from the Yoko Local Studios in lovely Las Vegas, with your Think Out of the Box hosts, Stormie and Proficient Stot.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! Woohoo!
Wow, that's really sad.
How was that?
I hope that that's no indication of what we've got coming. Otherwise, I think that we might want to get rid of him already.
I'm already off the show. We're 2 seconds into.
You're already off the show, every show. So you know what, Stormie? I'm really excited about today because I'm excited about most of our guests. Well, I think all of our guests, just not my co-host. But this is like a phenomenal power uber guest that we have today. And I think he's going to be able to teach you something that's going to make you more valuable to the show.
Wait a
and
second.
To our business.
It's hard to teach someone something who knows everything.
The bar is up.
That's the problem. That's the problem. Welcome to Bizruptions.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Our guest today is Dr. Jeffrey Magee, and I need to dive into it for just a moment because Dr. Jeffrey Magee is someone who I've been following in my sales career for well over a decade. When I was a director of sales and marketing for a home builder, we used to pop his DVDs into the big screen because this was before plasma TVs and all that stuff.
Amazing.
And we would watch the videos and then we would do coaching and training based on your sales training. So having you here in the studio is awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Magee, thank you for coming and joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Dangerous question. How far you want to go back? I was raised on a farm in Colorado, and now today I'm in Las Vegas. Yeah, again, I think a lot of us, and even your viewers of this program, again, the whole point of Bizruptions is to look at what you do and always be asking yourself, holding yourself accountable, are you really at peak performance? And if you are, keep going forward with more passion, more energy, more commitment. But also be asking, are there ways to be more effective? And a lot of times the more successful individuals are, whether it's athletes or entertainers or entrepreneurs or business executives or military generals, a lot of the demographic I've been very honored to play with for the past almost 2 decades, the more successful you are always able to find ways to improve. And so that's kind of what my journey has been for the last several decades. Went to college to be a journalist, did that for a number of years, got very disappointed with the negativity of journalism and left that. And whenever you're unemployed, there's always one job in the globe and in America, and that's sales, and fell into sales, worked for Fortune 100 company, and that kind of took me on the trajectory for the past 20-some years in sales and into leadership and owning businesses and selling businesses, and that's where I play today.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I can appreciate is the title. You're a human capital developer. Now,
That one?
I like that.
I like that. That is awesome.
I've been using that way before it became fashionable. That's been on my business cards for almost 20 years, and now today everyone else is understanding it and using it. Exactly.
Nice. Well, what does that mean? What's a human capital developer?
As I was working for a Fortune 100 company, American Home Products, back in the 80s, I started recognizing that the larger the business is, they're obviously large because they're doing something right. I mean, you can hate them all day long, but if they're the big guy on the block, they're doing something right. But the bigger you are, sometimes people get into positions where they really don't have the human capital or the talent to do a good job. It's the momentum of the company can carry the day. The momentum of your predecessor can cover a lot of mess ups and mistakes and crap that you might do for a while.
Right.
And I started recognizing that, and into businesses I ended up going off into from that day forward, that human capital is kind of like Benjamin Franklin had a classic statement. The person who empties their purse into their head will never be bankrupt. I mean, you can lose your house, your home, your cars, your business, your clothes, but if you've got some mental DNA, you can always bounce back. And so when I think about human capital developer, it really is that. I mean, talent development, I've just written a new book called Talentification, so I'm making up a new word there. Looking at the whole process of talent as an individual or a business. What I recognize with some of my global clients, and again, down to mid-sized businesses can benefit from this as well, and even a startup business, that there are certain phases to talent development in a human being, the maturation process, or a business. And once I recognize that, again, there's another answer. There's so many ways to respond to what does human capital developer mean. But to me, it's about how do you always grow yourself or the people around you from a talent standpoint to be the most effective they can be at that level, and the positions left and right of them, and horizontally as well as vertically up above and below them. And that's what success is about. But sadly, there are some business people today, and I also work with lots of military generals of the National Guard around our country, so I run into this in government and in private business, that what's going to get you in trouble really is your own ego. When you think you know everything, you're not willing to learn other ideas. That's why I laugh. Yeah, and folks, these two have fun with each other, but they're both great people. So they jab each other, but Borah and Stormie are rock stars. They're not here today because they don't listen for ideas.
That's like...
That's it. So that's what human capital is. What are you doing to grow yourself?
Hook.
I love it.
And with that being said, what are you doing to grow yourself, Borah?
I'm right here helping you. It's my charity.
Full-time job.
That's right, full-time. Thank you. I love him.
We all wish to have a performance coach right beside us 24/7, right?
All the time. All the time. Yes, absolutely. So, before we get started, because I want people to really understand who we have on the show today and the power, the magnitude of who you are. And I know recently you had a really successful company that you sold.
And I appreciate that. So, again, Jeffrey Magee International, which doesn't exist anymore, so JMI for short. But Jeffrey Magee International was my kind of leadership and sales training company I had for 20-ish years. Around 2008, 9, 10, one of my larger clients was a firm that provided continuing professional education, so CPEs, to CPAs, EAs, and tax attorneys. I mean, a lot of professional industries, real estate, insurance, engineers, et cetera, that, to maintain your license and certification to play in that space, you have to every year maintain certain number of educational credits and certification, and every year the clock starts over. So it's a brilliant billion-dollar industry and ready-made market. So the company I was a part of, one of my largest clients at the time was Western CPE, based in Bozeman, Montana. So this storyline is 2010. As we're recording here today is a couple years past that. So they basically were in a position where they wanted to keep growing, and the two primary owners of the company were of age where really they didn't want to retire the company because, truth be told, it was an ATM machine. It was their annuity. It was making money.
Machine, yes.
But no one really in their family was of interest or had the mental DNA to run the company, so they were trying to figure out, what do we do? We don't want to sell it, and just kind of right time, right place. And as I said, they were one of my larger clients for many years. I was doing leadership development work for them, webinars and podcasts and continuing education course credits, self-studies, and live programs. And they approached me with an opportunity to become a one-third owner in a company and a trajectory to make that happen. And so we talked and negotiated and worked out, kind of the first 1, 2, 3 year game plan. In 6 months upon arriving at the company, what I quickly realized was that the company was not as healthy as the books appeared. They were actually 34% down in revenue and really on respirator. So we put immediate game plans and strategies in place. We went from 34% down to ending that year 11% up. And anyone who's ever ran a major business with 144 employees, to have a 50-ish% swing in revenue, capital gains is unheard of. So that was the company, had a lot of success, and then in 2011-12, transitioned out of that and came back to where I'm at now, just working in talent development with my name, JeffreyMagee.com.
Wow, you said 140?
4 employees.
Wow.
Yeah, across the United States. It's a great company. I mean, there's some phenomenal people that are there. Over time, a lot of the great people I worked with at the time back in 2010 and 11 as your dateline have all subsequently left, went on to other jobs or left the organization. And it's went through some other, migrations. The 2 guys that were left standing have duked it out and one bought out the other one. So the company today is no reflection of what it was in 2011 and 12 when I was there, basically. From 2000 to 2012.
Gotcha. Now, and the reason that I wanted to bring that up, just so that everyone understands, because there's a lot of coaches and there's a lot of phenomenal, there are coaches, there's speakers, there are trainers. I mean, there's a myriad of them out there. And you and I have had this conversation before about the fact that, I work with a certain group of people because I built multi-million-dollar businesses, but I've never built a 9-figure business, a 10-figure business. I've never done that, so I don't work
when you start knocking on the door of 100 million and going to a couple hundred million,
that's a whole different.
It is.
That's a different playground. So I just wanted them to understand that, sit down and take a listen here.
Thank you.
Because it's not often that you'll have the opportunity to get this type of information from this caliber of a leader. Who's actually lived it. You're not just teaching something that you found in textbook.
And that's critically important. And again, I kind of live in the leadership talent development. We have a whole series of programs. You can look at my website for that, Leadership Academy of Excellence series, but also revenue generation. Because what you've said also is important to Borah. A lot of business executives today, and there's nothing wrong with what I'm about to say, but the normal architectural pathway of how most senior leaders evolve into companies is through a linear pipeline. They are either engineering, they're legal, they're CPA, they're finance, and that's perfect. But the problem with that mental trajectory is that your mindset around revenue generation is called cost accounting. How do we get smarter with every penny, which you need to? How do we cut costs everywhere we can, which when it makes sense, you need to? But they a lot of times have no extrovert DNA in terms of how do we go out and make money. The easiest way to solve a financial problem is not just cutting back and tightening the purse strings, as they say, which that makes sense at times. Fastest way to solve any revenue problem is to go make another frickin' sale. A lot of times people don't get that. And again, we see that in government without getting into politics. Again, when politicians talk about how to help businesses be better, they understand growth mentality. Whenever government, and it doesn't matter which political party, is talking about tightening purse strings or more regulations, they don't understand how this country was formed. And of course, most of them tripped through high school, so they never had a civics class anyway. Revenue is one of the three things our country's all about. It was basically capitalism and representation and freedom of religion without going too far. They always forget that capitalism component about business, which is exactly what this Bizruptions program is all about.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely. Did you learn something there, Deborah?
I already knew this. He and I had this special training a long time ago.
Oh, see, I know everything, so I knew this even longer than that.
All
see?
three of us went to the same high school. We got it down.
That we did.
Absolutely. So with that, let me ask you a question, because I know you do a lot of work with in terms of revenue generation for businesses. How does that tie into leadership? How do the two tie together?
It does a lot. So again, in looking at leadership, both through my graduate level college textbooks I've written, online learning LMS system, and live on-site training, we have a 12-month module program called the Leadership Academy of Excellence. And it was birthed out of my work with the Fortune 100 companies, chief learning officers, my own businesses, and small and medium-sized companies, as well as the National Guard, working with the executive team, the general officers in different states. I started realizing that there are certain skill sets that great leaders fundamentally must possess to manage a business enterprise. So whether that business is a profit or nonprofit, doesn't matter. It's the same ball game. But those core skill sets, then I started realizing, evolved into a sequence, and there's these 12 that we go through, and we've worked with clients that went on to become billion-dollar revenue-generating companies. So we have a lot more than just the 12 series. But the leadership's important to answer your question on revenue, because most everyone in their job every day becomes so fixated on the tasks that they're doing themselves. What are the tasks? What are the responsibilities? What are the work products I've got to do? That people don't sometimes stop and say, okay, that's fine, but no matter what I'm doing, there's also a revenue component to it. How do I help to become more proficient at this phase, and therefore more profitable? So if I can find a way, so let's just go home for a second for your viewers. Think about it. If you have a hanger and you're hanging some clothes on it, and you really didn't want to go buy something else, what else could that hanger be used for? And you let your creative juices go, you could figure that out. I mean, it's just like the activity they do in fundamental training programs 101 all day long, or with little kids in junior high school or elementary school. Same thing. Or you take some popsicle sticks and say, okay, you're done sucking the popsicle, what else can you do with the stick? It's the same thing with every job in a company. If a business wants to become more proficient, go down and talk to the rock stars in every position, not the entire staff. Because not everyone in a company has a brain cell. Hate to pop a bubble. See, and that's another, there's your business disruptor why some people don't like me, is that I'm not disrespectful, but I'm going to call a spade a spade. So you go talk to the rock stars in every position and say, if you had to redo this job, how would you do it to be more efficient? And they'll give you a ton of ways to make more money. Or let's say you and I owned a restaurant, and we want to generate more revenue. So here's where almost every restaurant trips. Restaurants don't advertise and market because they don't understand how to do this. But let's say we had a restaurant and not a lot of money, we would go guerrilla. So where's revenue come into it? Then we would have business cards printed up and have them at the front hostess stand. Okay, everyone does that. We would take the business cards though. So here's our popsicle stick, here's our hanger. How do we do something else with it? We take that simple business card. So let's say Deborah owns the restaurant and you're the manager and I'm wait staff. Doesn't matter. We would take her business cards. On the back of it, we would print our name and then we'd sign under the name. So it's kind of like two steps of legitimacy that someone's not just forging it. But what we would do is Deborah would say, take these business cards now, Stormie, with your name on the back, Jeffrey with your name on the back, give them to your friends, your family, people live in your neighborhood, anyone else that you know, and let them know, come into our restaurant and bring this business card in. If they bring it in, we'll give them in essence, 20% off of their ticket, or we'll give them free dessert, or you buy one meal, we'll give you a second one free. And when they bring the card in and present it, we now know what the deal is, but we're going to take your card and we're going to put it in a bowl in the back, in the kitchen, and at the end of each night, we'll pull one card out and give that person $20 cash or $50 cash. If you're in wait staff or you're generating, you're earning, minimum wage, $20 in your hand, and that's real money.
Right.
And then
money, yes.
And then we'll drill out for each shift, but then we'll put it in a bigger bowl that goes at the end of the month. The end of the month we'll pull out for maybe $250 to $500. Well, if you now arm everyone in your restaurant to go out and micro start looking for business, you're going to grow. Now let's say Borah says, I want to grow my business. So see, this is the answer. I'm giving all of you guys a freaking story here. This is worth $100,000 if you're taking notes.
Absolutely.
Because
right.
no
Absolutely.
restaurant does this stuff. Most restaurants suck when it comes to marketing because the ownership come up from linear positions. They were the chef. That's a linear. They were a business. They were an accountant. I want to start another business. I got a whole crap load of money over to the side. Well, back up. Think revenue generation. So how I do this differently is revenue generation. So then, again, Borah might say, we want to do catering. Okay, so now she's going to go right back to office and say, okay, how many of you are involved in your church or PTA? Your spouse works at a doctor's office, an insurance office, plumbing company, whatever, or is in business where you might want to do catering. Give this card to them, and we'll give them 10, 20% off the catering. And those cards for catering go in a different bucket, and those will give you like $100. So now you've armed everyone in your company to virally go out and touch all of their databases and networks and social media platforms, etc. So that's revenue generation. When I work with the military and recruiting, it's amazing. We have 54 states and territories. Last year, only 6 of those states made their recruiting mission in numbers. Of the 6 that made their recruiting mission, 5 of them were my clients.
Wow.
There's your clue. Because I give them tools they can use right now. The last answer to that is accountability. Now, there has to be an accountability mechanism or no one's going to work hard. America is a country of a small percentage of people who get off their butt and work, a large percentage of people that want to ride on your back. So again, if I'm in sales and I know Borah's not going to hold me accountable, then I'm going to figure out what's the least I need to do to get my maximum paycheck. And so the 6 that made their mission were ones that knew the tools and held themselves accountable to do it. The other, in essence, 40 plus didn't make mission. There is no excuse for them to not make their recruiting mission. And I can use that into sales. If you have a sales goal, there's no reason you can't make it in this country today because the opportunities are limitless. Period.
Incredible.
Powerful.
Hey,
Yes.
and you gave me a great idea, Dr. Magee, just a great idea. So if Borah owned a restaurant, if she owned a restaurant, I think a great name for it would be Oh Hell No.
Oh, hell no. Oh, this is too good. Oh, hell no, I'm not done. Oh, hell no, bring me some more. Oh, hell no, I don't want to go yet.
Oh, hell no, that's right.
There you go.
You know,
You just have to finish
Stormie,
that tagline there, Stormie.
I've had just about
I'm just
enough
telling
of
you,
it.
I think that's what you should name your restaurant.
But you know what? That is the difference. And a lot of people get offended when you say stuff like that. But the reality is the difference between the successful or the wealthy and the working class, if you will, is that when you have a job or you have that, I won't even say a job because it's okay to have a job, but when you have that employee mindset, then you go in and you say, pay me this and then I'll do that. But the entrepreneur, the success mindset says, you know what, I'll do this, and then I expect that you're going to compensate me accordingly based upon what I've just provided.
And there are businesses that have staff. I mean, and you can play the word game all day long. I giggle when I look at people's, titles on LinkedIn or business cards. Whether you're in people development, you're a people mover, our cast, our crew, our team. At the end of the day, they're freaking employees. They're doing something for a paycheck, which is what you just said. But if you want to change that mindset, so now talent development, if you want to change that mindset, so yeah, I know that you own the company and I'm punching a clock, or you own the company and I know I'm supposed to work 40-ish hours a week, give or take something, and I get a paycheck. But if you want them to have an entrepreneurial mindset, then you have to find ways to really enable and empower. And I don't mean the stupid buzzword empowerment. You empower them by saying, look, here's what we need out of you as a group, as a team, as a department minimum. And for that minimum, you're right. Here's how we're going to compensate. However, if you are motivated, and all it takes is one spark plug to light up the whole team. If you're motivated to do more, then here's what more looks like. Give them directions and goals and benchmarks and some key performance indicators to know if they're on track and inbounds and et cetera. But if you do more, here's how we will plus and motivate you more. Here's how we'll compensate you more. Again, Southwest Airlines was a client of mine many years ago, and that's one of their secrets formulas is that the employees in general at Southwest, and the reason they've been profitable for every year in 50 years they've been in business.
Wow.
Every year for 50 years they've been profitable. Is that the employees are compensated not as an employee, but as a team. They all have skin in the game. So Borah and I work for Southwest at the airport in whatever capacity. We're part of a team. So we get our check for our job, but we're part of a team. And if our team accomplishes objectives, there's a bonus check. Now, Stormie, you work for Southwest in another capacity, but if the company's profitable at the end of the quarter, end of the year, there's another bonus check. So you've got a reason, I have a reason, all of us have a reason to work with each other and not against each other. So yeah, they have HR personnel issues, but their HR personnel problems, grievances, and whining and crying and crappy little whiny people problems is way down the ladder from other businesses where everyone's pointing fingers. Because again, children learn how to play mom and dad, and children learn how to play the babysitter and teachers, and children learn how to say things that sometimes they know is a lie, but no one's really going to question them. And once they perfect that behavior, add 30 years, and that's an employee today. Adults are no different than kids. You want to figure out why an adult acts the way they are? Mentally shave off 30 years and visualize them at 5 years, and you see how they're being conditioned to do what they do. And talent development's about conditioning and rewards and opportunities.
So you just said, I have to go back to this again. So you just said that the behavior that they learn as a child, and then add 30 years to it.
And that's who you're hiring today.
That's today's employee.
It's scary.
Wow.
And you can even see it with 60 and 70-year-olds. Now, a lot of times, these older people are saying, wait a second, I can do that. And they're acting like little kids, too. It's like, really? I mean, in what world? And again, you want to be respectful of people. I got that. But some people have an overinflated view of their net value to the freaking planet. And every day they're showing up thinking... Talent development.
All right.
Talent development.
Talent development.
So
wow.
Are there a lot of companies in the global marketplace that concentrate on this talent development?
Absolutely. It's a billion-dollar industry. And also
Really?
your major accounting companies now, they are not just in the consulting space, but they've bought people that play in talent development that have written a book or two or have some training software consultancy programs. They've bought them and merged them in. And there's a couple of great examples of one-hit wonders out there that it's a good thing they sold their company because they were en route for bankruptcy because they had no mental DNA besides one book that they hijacked when they worked for a big consulting company and had access to data. I'll let your viewers figure out how to connect that dot. But there's a lot of people, as you said at the very top, that say they're a coach or consultant, but they've never really ever done anything. Mm-hmm. So with that to the side, though, no, there are a lot of really good talent development companies. Again, if you look at AICPA, which is a governing body for CPAs, or you look at ATD, Association for Talent Development for corporate trainers and development people in the business space, or you look at SHRM, Society of HR Management, which they use several of my models the last 20 years as kind of some foundational benchmark tools on how you do analytic analysis of individuals. So there's a lot of associations out there, there's a lot of businesses out there, and so there's a lot of people that do it, yes. But again, it goes back to your top comment. If you're going to hire someone to come in and help you to look at your talent development structure or work with your human resources team or work with you as a senior leader, you really want to know what has been the background, not just of that business, but if the individual's going to walk in your front door, because here's the problem with some of the big branded name companies that are out there. The person who's going to send in the door to do work for you just graduated from college with some fancy name on their diploma, but they've never signed the front of a check, which was your company comment when you said you've sold a multi-million-dollar company. So again, sometimes the reason you have a lot of people all doing kind of the same things is because they're all reading from the same script, which means they don't really understand talent development.
Wow.
Interesting. So is that the difference between that, that old adage, wisdom versus knowledge? Some of these youngsters come out of school, I read a book. Let me teach you what I know.
I mastered that book. I read
mastered
it twice.
that book. I got an
I read
A.
it twice.
and there's nothing wrong with that if they're upfront with that on the front side, and,
right.
and that's what you want to hire. And I tell people all the time, if and there's a lot of great people teaching at the collegiate level. They've actually done something for a living. There's a lot of great people teaching at the collegiate level. They've never done anything, but they're smart academically from a theory map.
Correct.
And then there's a lot of people teaching at the collegiate level that have tenure, and if they were working in a regular business, they would have been fired because they bring no value to the marketplace.
Right. So
you've got to understand. And I say that because it's very important because consultants are conditioned. I mean, I read typically books from 5 different categories every month. I try to always read an academic textbook in the space I want to play so I know kind of what the academicians are talking about. I always, you got to know what those academicians are talking about. Big fancy words, tongue twister. And then I always try to read, again, a pop book. What's the popular book on Amazon or eBay or in your Barnes & Noble bookstore? I always try to read a trade book by a person in my trade that is a rock star, whether they have sold the business or they're running the business or they've invented something. I always try to figure out what's a great autobiography on someone who's still alive or a biography on someone's alive. So if I read that category, I then can watch them in real time and benchmark against some of the great words I just read. And then I like to read about dead people. Again, autobiography about the people that have died before us. But you've got to make sure that you have a lot of well-balanced information in your head because it goes back to the consultant thing you just asked in the college component you asked. And I said it because, again, we have a lot of people today with great ideas. The problem is their great ideas are not rooted in anything called reality, so those great ideas are never going to be able to take you anywhere. We see that in the media. I mean, I went to college to be a journalist, and I was taught as a journalist, you report the news based upon a fact, and you can't write about it or broadcast unless you have two people you don't know to back up what this one told you, so you have a total of 3 sources, so it's corroborated. And as a young journalist, you never give your opinion on the news, because again, it's what you just said, Stormie, you're too young to have the wisdom to know if someone's bamboozling you.
Right.
That's why all of the commentators will always be the old people. So I mean, I remember my professors telling me that. Today you've got journalists interviewing journalists, and it's scary because you see there's some of the same journalists that are crying on election night when their person loses, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I mean, in my days as a journalist, you would have been fired for that stuff. Now bring that into business consulting, because that's the same thing sometimes we have, is we have people that they worked for a great company, it's on their resume, but did you make something great happen, or were you simply the stakeholder that in essence was there when something great happened? And that's important to business, which back to Bizruptions. There's a lot of great companies out there, but the person that's doing the talking did not make them great.
Wow, that is powerful. So let me make sure I understood this. So you were saying
you don't.
named
And that's why
But go for it.
Okay then. This is going to be a parking lot afternoon. You'll see when we go to the parking lot after this, Dr. Magee. So you're reading
great.
5 books a month? Is that what you're saying? Because you know the average person reads less than 2 books a year.
Average person reads less than 2 books in their lifetime, I would guess.
After college.
Yeah,
after college. I mean, the numbers
I
at
was
Barnes
just
and Noble.
being nice, okay? I didn't want to thought.
And your math isn't too far off. I mean, Barnes & Noble did research a couple years ago, and what they found is exactly what, Borah, you said, is that the average adult post-college age, whether you went to college or not, in a non-academic environment, so you weren't in a training class or certification class, your boss didn't have you in some sort of, let's have a book reading club, on your own, the average adult reads less than 2 books a year. You're right. So it is very scary. So for me, now let me back up. It's not 5 books a month. I'm reading 5 books at one time, all the time. So I typically read anywhere from probably 10 to 20 books every month. So I'm reading books from those categories because it's all the great ideas. And again, sometimes people say there's really no new ideas, and that's not always true. There are some new ideas. But what I think is really meant by there's no real new idea, no new real product or service, is that what that is really meant is that there's always going to be an evolving adaptation of something that's already there. I mean, so here's a history lesson for your viewers. So we'll just kind of see what generational segmentation your viewers' minds are, regardless of your driver's license. But if Ben Franklin, 5 and dime, understood business, there would be no Woolworth, no Walmart, no Kmart, no JCPenney's, no Sears, maybe Sears and Roebuck. Roebuck disappeared. There would be a Montgomery Ward, which no longer exists, and there would be no Amazon. But because Ben Franklin, 5 and dime, did not understand that business is about 2 things. It's either about a deliverable or a distribution system. That's all business is today. But because they forgot distribution system, as the market evolves, they didn't stay relevant. They disappeared. Woolworth came on. Well, Woolworth became one of the measurements that the New York Stock Exchange measures off of. Well, because it didn't stay up with distribution, it disappeared. Then it became Kmart. Kmart forgot what it was doing. Then it became Walmart. Walmart, JCPenney's, you have lots of stores. Target came on the scene. But all of those companies, when that internet thing popped on, they thought internet was going to be a fad. Nothing really there. All the internet really is not really it's not really a deliverable of any kind. It doesn't make anything really besides it's the system. It's a distribution system of everything that comes through the internet, whether it's information or technology, or whether it's information or products you buy.
We're still not sure about that internet thing.
Yeah, I know.
We're still not sure about
So this is not the internet you're hearing and watching us on. This is just a figment in your imagination, frequency
We're still
100. And so that's really all that Amazon is today. Is Amazon is a distribution system. So when everyone was laughing at Jeff Bezos for creating the system, they didn't realize that, no, he was understanding this is a distribution system of the future. Target today, as we record this, is spending millions and millions of dollars to upgrade its internet presence because it realized, oh my God, by the time we jumped on a bandwagon, we've almost missed it. So that's really what business is all about, those 2 elements.
Wow, that's powerful. Now, the second part of that question about the books, I know you've written a book or 2.
Just a couple.
Just a couple. Tell us a little bit about those.
So 20 books, translated into 23 languages. 4 graduate management, so college textbooks, 4 legitimate bestsellers, not...
Tell us about that legitimate.
you sell thousand-ish books. That's a lot of books. That's not legitimate. You're the number one best-selling book on Amazon at 3 a.m. in category "Who gives a crap?" and you sold 2 digital books. Doesn't count. I mean, that's the sort of marketing crap that's out there. So a minor bestseller basically is 10,000 books. To get into bestseller, you're doing around 30 to 50,000. A major bestseller is when you're knocking off the scale over more than 50. So I've sold tens and tens of thousands of books, graduate books, ebooks, audio books. John Wiley and McGraw-Hill are my 2 major trade book publishers on the trade book side. At the time of this recording, we're doing this. It is Pearson Education, which is the largest collegiate textbook publisher in the world. So that's the 2 that primarily my products are with. So in all of my books are business on leadership, business management, entrepreneurial leadership, this place I've lived in for 30 plus years. And then I have, outside of that, then I have some sales books and sales audios and videos that you even talked about, Stormie. So that's the 2 places I play in. One out of all that, only one personal development self-help book called Your Trajectory Code. Because to me, there's nothing else needs to be written after I wrote that book.
Oh, wow. There you go. I like that. So you don't have to compete with him with your Dr. Seuss book that's coming out, Stormie.
He's in good shape.
You're in good shape. You won't have to compete. So maybe you can go to that major bestseller list.
Hey, don't knock my Dr. Seuss book until you read it, okay? There's just lots of value
and
in
Dr.
there.
Seuss was a great, so here's the little sidebar you didn't realize.
Okay.
So I did the last interview with Dr. Seuss before he passed away.
Did you really?
Did you
It appeared in
Oh my
USA Today.
gosh.
And he doesn't have a doctorate, so never had a doctorate. His last name was, in essence, Geisel. In World War II, Geisel was trying to do line art and work in doing drawings for all the advertising on New York City and Madison Avenue back in the day, and no one took his name seriously, took him seriously. So during World War II, the movie reels that you would see in the movie theaters, our grandparents or the people of the day would go to the movie theaters, and that's where you would see the updates of what was going on during the war. And one of the major producer of those is theater Seuss Geisel, if you look at the credits. And one of the people he hired to narrate one of those was a young budding actor at the time by the name of Ronnie Reagan. So
Wow.
a lot of fun stories came from him. So after World War II, when he came back to New York City to do his line arts and drawings of things for advertising, he gave himself the name Doctor, took his mom's maiden name, which was Seuss, and started marketing himself as Dr. Seuss, and people took him seriously, and the rest is history. There you go.
Wow.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's great information.
And so part of what I've done for 45 years, basically, since age 10, 11, 12, 13, was I've always been fascinated with successful people, regardless of what space they're in and what all of the, politics around them might be. She's white, I'm black, you're green, whatever. Set that crap aside. I love to study successful people, see how they're successful, and that's another story on how to make success happen. Huge. Green Eggs and Ham is about the war between basically United States and Russia, called the Cold War. If you read it, if you read a lot of his books are very politically connected.
Really?
If you read them, if you look at the time of when they came out, think about what was going on in the world, and you read his books. Almost every one of his books are tied to politics. What's going on in the world? Why do we hate people? Why is this going on? I mean, and that's where he started writing. They're phenomenal books, and most people don't ever catch that messaging when they read them. Now you go back and read them, and you go, "Oh my God, this is about the civil rights. Oh my God, this is about the Cold War." I mean, it is amazing.
That's incredible. I had no idea. Deborah,
That's
we
one of
know you
those
didn't have any idea. But
my mind is just
Disruptions. We just blew everyone's
We just
mind.
blew everyone's mind. That's right. That's what we do here. Wow.
That's pretty wild. I'm going to
stuff.
go home. I've got a granddaughter, and I'm going to grab some of her Dr. Seuss books, and I'll dive into them tonight. And I'll share with you what I've learned, Deborah.
It's huge.
You know that they're your books. Stop it. Stop it. Don't
Which
blame
makes
it
it
on
even
her.
more valuable because it went through
Exactly.
3 generations. There you go.
Absolutely. So let me ask you a question. As a small business owner today, a small business owner's got 1, 2, 3, 10 employees. You've thrown a lot at us. What should they be concerned about in their business? If they have a business that's not excelling, but they're getting by, because that's the issue with a lot of businesses. They're making enough money to where they're staying in business, but really not enough money to do.
If you're in a small business, again, let's use the numbers that Stormie just gave us, a dozen or less. Think of it like a family unit for a second.
Okay.
So common sense. Mom and dad, I'm your child, you're my parents, and you're having a tough financial month, and you see that it's going to be a little bit tougher because maybe your employer is going to be scaling back and you might lose your job, and Deborah's with a small company. Then if you think of that data, so let's call it a case study, then you're probably going to be having some conversations when your kids are not in the room as to how you tighten the belt, how you get smart, how you not panic can scare your kids, how you guys don't freak out. Money's one of the main reasons people get divorced, so how you don't let the money become in between you and cause, tension and fights and stupidity, right?
Right.
Okay, take that exact same metaphor and analogy into your business then. So if you're a small business, one of the things I would coach you on is common sense. Which of your employees or all of your employees, those are your kids, which of them would you want to bring into the break room if you have a proverbial break room? And if not, if you ever sat and had lunch at someone's desk or table in your office with 2 or 3 of the others, where's that desk? That's your kitchen table. Would you bring all of your kids together to say, look, we've got to get smart, things are going to get tough, everything's okay, mom and dad are fine, we all love you, no one's going to get in trouble, etc. But we all have to get smart here. And if you do that at home, bring that to your office. Bring the appropriate employees for all the men and say, here's the reality. And again, always raise the bar of expectations on people. Don't lower it. That's my mindset. The reason we have problems in all businesses, we keep lowering the bars. So you raise bar and say, okay, so here's the deal. Here's the business we're in. I don't think our market is going away, but it's getting tighter. It's towards the end of the year. No one typically buys more of our product in the next 3 months. They'll all start kicking in February. So we have enough revenue to make our payroll for the next 3 months. No one freak out. But I want us to brainstorm. And again, here's the checkbook. Go and let them see the numbers. Be transparent, because they more than likely know the numbers anyway. But when you actually show it and they see it, most people are stunned, because again, if you have a half a dozen-ish employees or more, everyone has this false belief system that because Borah owns a company and she pulled in the parking lot a couple months ago with a new car, oh my God, we're making tons of money and I'm getting screwed because you won't give me a paycheck.
Right.
I mean, that's the mindset. Or because you have a nice house, whatever that means. They don't go back, Stormie, and realize maybe you've lived in that house for a decade or more. They just see a big, nice house and go, oh my God, I looked on Zillow.com and it says Stormie's house is worth, $43 million and he won't give me a pay raise. What an idiot. I mean, people, they have a lot of false data from which they formulate their opinions on.
Right.
So with that.
So that spirit of transparency
it's
you're
huge.
talking about, because most businesses, the last thing that they would ever think is opening up their books.
Ego, their pride. No, you get the company involved and say, look, here's really where we are. And ideally for any of us to give it, have a pay raise, the company needs to have X amount of money in the bank. So make a comment like that. We need to have $100,000 in the bank before we ever talk about, in essence, pay raise. $100,000 liquid cash in a bank and money coming in every month to pay our regular bills and all of our payroll. And if this number gets bigger, then we can afford to take a bonus or a pay raise out of it. So figure out what your number is. I'm just using an easy, simple number to answer the question.
Right.
And you put that on the table and say, so let's go around the room. Borah, you're in charge of sales, and it's not your responsibility for all of us to look at you that, hey, we're in trouble because you're not making sales. Wait a second. What are you doing
Nothing.
to make sales? There you go. And that could be the reality answer, though. Let's play with that one, because a lot of my clients, that is the freaking answer. Is that the sales team has learned, and again, I love the sense of fun, but that also is a reality. And all of my client organizations, when I walk into them, what I've learned is that very few are truly rock star companies, because what's happening is they've all learned what's the minimum that the ownership or my bosses really expect. And as long as they hit that, they can fly under the radar, and everyone takes their eye off of the fact that minimum number may be way below where we should be. Maybe it's not the ceiling, but there's a whole lot of growth opportunity. If I use the National Guard in every state, there's a number of people they have to recruit every year and a number they have to retain to have the strength and power to do what they need to do to help you as in your state. And most every state grossly fails to make their number that is actually right there within reach, because they've spent the last 18 years crying about how crappy it is, and everyone believes it. Take that to another business. A restaurant's in trouble. I use Las Vegas, great restaurant city. Well, it's a great restaurant city that, again, any new restaurant that pops open is usually gone in 2 years because they don't know how to sell and market. So Stormie, you guys make the joke, but it's important for your podcast for viewers to understand. It's also a true statement. But now back to my point. So if Borah is our salesperson, whatever that title is, and maybe no one else in the company of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, whatever in sales, but what Borah says, here's my sales game plan for the next 30 days, for the next 90 days, the next quarter, and the next year. Have her share that like it's a presentation to your board. But all of us in the company are listening, so that now when she's done, we all have skin in the game, because the owner's going to invite everyone. So how do we help her? Who knows someone that when she gave you her sales plan of the market she's going after, or the new products we have and why we're not succeeding? Who knows someone? Because I'm a big believer. You have a half a dozen employees. If they got a spouse and they have kids, they got brothers and sisters, they live in a neighborhood, someone absolutely is one connection from a sale this second. And Stormie, for your viewers' example, I do 2 open enrollment programs in my company. Everything else is I come into businesses and associations to work with. And one is performance-driven selling. It's a boot camp. And on my website under events, you can click and see when the next one is. But as an example, you were that. earlier in this year when I did one of those programs and I sent an invitation announcement out to you as a friend, not an expectation that you were going to buy a seat or you might send some of your employees, but knowing that you know some other small business owners in Las Vegas area where this is. And I've got people flying in for my next one. I got people flying in from out of the country to come to this program. It's powerful. It's what I've been doing for decades in corporate America. I'm making it available to the marketplace because a lot of the sales programs that are out there for open enrollment to the marketplace are crap. They're hype. They're motivational, rah by some mediocre salesperson says they're great. They haven't done a damn thing. So I'm using my actual sales program. Day 1 strategy, day 2 tactical. So you got all that information. You in essence called me up on a cell phone. And it was in the evening. He said, Jeff, I'm with one of my clients. So there's your small business people. They work at night. And he has a couple of salespeople, revenue generations of interest. Can you give me a special price point? He has 3 that needs to be there. And I said, yes, done deal. That's what we would role play with Borah. She's a sales manager in a small company. Then we might go to production. So let's say, Tom or Susan over there is our production person, whatever title that might be for creating whatever our product is we sell, whether it's a finite and infinite product, whether it's tangible, intangible. So we let that person do a presentation on what are they doing, and let all the rest of us listen to how are they assembling it, how are they doing it, are there any ways we can help them to save money? My restaurant example earlier. So in a small company, if they want to become better, they need to do things like that. And most companies don't do that because, again, fear of the unknown, their egos get in the way, they're afraid, as you said, the board being transparent. Right. But if companies let everyone have some skin in the game, you would see fewer companies get in trouble. I mean, as we're recording this right now, Sears is on the brink of going in, out of business or in business. Toys R Us, in business, out of business. But again, if they wanted to keep the company going, they would go to every single one of the small town Americas where Sears is.
Right.
That's how they got started. Yes, they were in a big city, but a small town America, then midtown America, and then large America. There ain't no one in small town America, not even a Walmart. Walmart might be in midtown America. So if they went to every one of those store managers in small town America and they went to the city council in America and say, how do we help keep this business here? See, that would be a different dialogue. They're trying to solve all of it at the corporate boardroom level to fix the problem. And the problem with a lot of corporate boards is half the people on that board should be fired, not there. The reason we're on those boards is because it's each other's family member. American Airlines. Do I have time for a quick story?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So American Airlines, everyone go back to 9/11. Think of the horrificness of 9/11 and the World Trade Center towers going down. So I fly for a living. I mean, my office is typically in another city. I do typically around 20 airline flights every month, so I need a good airline. At the time, I lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Oklahoma was owned by American Airlines, basically. That was the market. So by default, if you want to dedicate your business to one airline, you're going to become American Airlines. So all airlines have a frequent flyer program where you join it and you're silver, then a little bit more you go gold, a whole bunch more you're platinum, and then because there's some people that have no life and really are huge customers, they made a level above that. So American Airlines is the first major commercial company that actually created the frequent loyalty program and really leveraged it. Okay. So they birthed it, let's say. Okay. So after 9/11, if anyone is a business person here, you go back and think about getting on planes for months after 9/11. It was like getting on a jet that holds 100 to 200 people, and it was your private jet because there's only about you and 30 people on the plane. True or false?
True.
Remember those days?
True, absolutely.
So I write a letter to American Airlines with suggestions of how they can increase revenue because my first thought is, okay, you can't keep these planes flying empty. It's just not going to happen. And I need them to keep flying. So I'm sending them letters on how to generate revenue. So I send this letter to the person in charge of basically their frequent flyer program. And basically, I'm giving them ways that they can make a ton of money right now. And I get a nice letter back, basically, that says, thank you very much. We appreciate your input, but, kiss off. We got this under control. So I elevated the letter. I sent it to the president, CEO of the company time. Here are things you can do. You need to get copies of the frequent flyer list from all the other airline companies, which you can find out how to get that. Find their top level flyers because they're like me. They've got to fly for a living. They maybe they're not going to do 20 flights this month, but just they're going to do 10, 11, 12. Send them each a letter that acknowledges the scary reality. We know it's scary times. We know travel is an anxiety experience. We're doing everything to give you a fun, comfortable ride and a safe ride. And here are 10 coupons for first class. If you buy a ticket, we want to bump you to first class on an airline. You're losing no money, and you're sending it to the people you know have to fly a ton, and you're giving them an inducement to come from Delta to you, or Northwest to you, or United to you, or Continental to you, or TWA to you. And I got to say, nice little letter back that said, kiss off. Wow. So then I raised it to the chairman of the board, so I won't mention Mr. Brennan by name, B-R-E-N-N-A-N, who was chairman of the board of AMR at the time, who happened to be the CEO of Sears Roebuck Corporation. Follow the bouncing ball, kids. And he sent a letter back on his letterhead. This was in the back of one of my management textbooks because you can't write stupidity like this. And his letter said the same thing. We know it's tough, and we've engaged a lot of market, consultants, industry experts, they were called, which is code for they have no clue, to help us through these tough times. And so I'm thinking, okay, you guys are not acknowledging. So about 3 years later down the road, they acted upon that idea, which I'm sure someone else gave them. But 3 years after when I gave it to them. At which point TWA now was basically gone. Continental and United are talking about merging. Northwest and Delta are talking about merging. So the point is the fallout of companies losing their butt was now already in motion. So those are examples. Instead of cutting the price point of your ticket, raise it a couple of bucks. And don't do a survey to the silvers and golds, because those level customers will bitch about anything. Survey your platinums, because those are your regular customers, and your executive platinum or advantage customers, so you can get the clues from them, so you can see what you're trying to do and where you're trying to go. So again, and then I got a letter back from American on that, and the point was, again, for us, so you're getting rid of the pillows, you're getting rid of the blankets, you're getting rid of the meal service out of first class, in essence, because those ways to save money. What you're doing is you're making the people that buy your biggest ticket because they want to fly a ton upset with you. So with American, so I'll put that up there for your camera to see, boom, there it is. So again, right here at the bottom, 3 million miles with American Airlines. So I'm their highest level, and it's Executive Advantage Platinum. I mean, there's nothing higher than that card. But again, I'm the one who's being told to kiss off. 3 million miles, and I listen to the ideas. So when I moved to Montana, where my new company was, one of the 2 states American doesn't fly to, I had to start over with Delta with no mileage. And with Delta, boom, I became their highest level flyer. So there I am with Delta, 1 million miles in a year and a half just with them. So what's interesting, when I hit 1 million miles with Delta Airlines, they sent me a great thank you letter, hand signed, appreciate your business, a little catalog, a gift catalog, stuff from Tiffany's, Hartman luggage as a gift, pick something from us as a thank you. What's interesting, even when I hit 3 million miles with American, still received no thank you. Basically just a little kiss off letter. I mean, what that does, it insults major business people by saying, thank you for basically, spending the majority of your life on our airlines, and we hope you're enjoying the ride. Joe Blow signature. And I mean, really? That's what you're going to give me? Don't do anything would have been better than that. So again, now I benchmark Delta against American, and I've got a lot of good friends at American, but again, why fly American when Delta goes out of the way for my business? And that comes back to the purpose of this podcast. Again, what do you do to disrupt the norms to be successful? Sometimes by disrupting the norms, you're doing nothing to disrupt the norms. The norms have become so pathetic, your regular business kicks their butt. Voila.
Wow.
If I had a mic, I'd drop it.
I know, right? There we go.
Boom.
There we go.
So it's back to the board. So again, your small businesses, one last thought on that one again. So your small businesses, you can do the same thing as a board. So again, if you have an accountant, have a meeting. Say, I'm going to have a meeting of my virtual board of directors, .. You didn't realize that you're on my board, .. As my accountant, you're on my board. I'm having a meeting on the 13th or the 14th or 15th, 6 o'clock at Denny's. I don't give a crap. Pick a restaurant, cheapo, be you. You don't have to go impress them. Or at my office or in my living room. You have a lawyer, you have an accountant, you have an insurance agent. Those are 3 people that most all of us have. If you buy a lot of business product from someone, Apple Store or HP or Office Depot or whatever, again, if there's a restaurant you go to a ton that's owned, back to our story of Borah, if you own the restaurant, we're always going there. I would think of all the major business people that I do a ton of business with, and I would invite them all to my house at a certain date and time and say, I want to sit down with you. Again, business is tough. I want to present to you as if you're my board of directors and I'm the CEO, and hopefully you won't fire me at the end of our dinner tonight, but here's my business plan. What can you guys give me as advice as to how to make it better?
Wait a second.
No one does that.
That's incredible. You just have given every small business in America should have a board of directors based on the information you just shared with us.
Absolutely. And no one does it. So why Jeff Magee versus the other management consultants? I think I just made the case. If you're spending hundreds of thousands with your board of directors, your consulting company, they're not giving you these ideas, you might want to keep them, but you've been played for a fool. The 2 of you, thank you for inviting me in this room, and the people that you and I associate with without sounding egotistical, so please don't hear us that way out there. I mean, this is what real people sound like. This is what real people look like. And the problem is we have too many candy-coated conversations out there, both in politicians, in media, in business, from our CPA, from our EA, from our tax attorney, from our banker. You have a bank account. Let's go back to your board of directors. You have a bank account, whatever bank account that's in, go walk in that lobby, say, who's the general manager, who runs this branch, walk up to them and say, here's who I am, you have my money, and have a conversation. I've been with U.S. Bank for over a decade. I used to be with Bank of America until I moved to Montana. There was no Bank of America, so I switched. But I'd go into U.S. Bank and say, okay, here's my card. I've been here for 10 years. You're the manager. I want you to come to dinner I'm going to have, and I want you to give me some feedback. If they're unwilling to do that, or they have some corporate governance that's so worthless and pathetic and whiny that they can't do that, fire your banker and go across the street to another bank, because some banker will be more happy to give that advice. Because the more successful you are, the more money you're going to put to their bank. Why would they not want to help you?
Right.
That's true. That's very true.
Wow.
There you go. Price of admission. Just got
Price
paid.
of admission.
Man, you just raised the stock on this show, Dr. Magee.
This is fun.
If you can tell me how to get her off the show, we can even take it up another level.
No, you're the right counterbalance for each other. I don't want to get rid of either of each other.
And I think we can.
It was going so well.
We can dismiss this really quick. Who did you speak to get booked on this show, Dr. Magee?
Phenomenal talent. Deborah, that's exactly it.
Wasn't Deborah?
Thank you. Not Deborah. Thank you very much. So you know what? We've talked a lot about the disruptions, and this show is called Bizruptions. So I always ask a question that has to do with the disruptions in your life, or the bizruptions in your life. And don't you even...
Your microphone's backwards.
Mine is?
Yeah, see,
no, it's not.
It's backwards, but that's okay.
It's, you know what? See, this is what I'm talking. The disruptions.
It's disruptions.
It's
such a disruption. I'm gonna have my microphone backwards.
It's right here. No, look, it's right here. You know what?
It's your spit shield that's in the wrong place.
Let me put it down so I can spit that way.
You're a crack out.
You know, okay. So if you can tell us something, the become from the disruptions to the bizruptor, what are the things and avoidance that you use, a tip that you can give them, something to help them to be more productive in their space when the challenges arise? And as we know, we have to deal with stormies and things like that. So the challenges are always going to arise, and especially if we want to be in business at a certain level.
And it's powerful. So let me give you a very highly political example, by hopefully not running the risk of offending anyone out there. I'll give you two names, because you can watch them in the media in real time. You can go back and historically watch them in the media to answer this question. So whether you look at President Clinton or President Trump, there's a lot of ways you can measure failure and success. So if you just shut up, take a deep breath, and use an objective measurement, they both are very successful because they're able to compartmentalize. So the answer is compartmentalize. Meaning you have to be able to stay focused on one issue at a time, understanding the big picture, but stay focused on one issue at a time, because part of what derails us is we get into any one area of our life or one area of our business, and we let that one dominate our internal dialogue, and that gets you excited and upset and emotional and out of control, and next thing you know, that falls out of your face, and it influences others either like you or not like you, and it just it snowballs all kinds of problems. So one is compartmentalization, staying focused, but you've got to understand the macro, the big picture, what you have to take care of. So back to business. So from a business standpoint, if you always will stay focused on, as a minimum, let's use revenue as an example. As a minimum, what's the revenue flow I need every month to pay all my bills and keep the light bulbs on? So if you know what your minimums are, then you know, as a minimum, every day I better be making sure that everything I do speaks to that, and as a minimum. So that's one way to catch yourself saying, okay, this is a great conversation. We've now talked for an hour, and one of the minimums I've got to do is I've got to get product XYZ out the door, and we're behind schedule. Or to make my revenue generation, I've got to reach out and make X number of cold calls to people that don't know me, and I've not done that this week, and it's Friday afternoon. So, I mean, there's a way to hold yourself accountable to what's my minimum revenues I need. Then, if you put your business hat on, your CEO hat on, or as a person you would like to retire one day, whatever that means, because it's going to be the same thing in business for retirement, then what's the extra revenue you need to start to create so you can have money to invest, or money to save, or money to expand? So that would be your second threshold. Successful people, and again, the adage in the saying, they always can keep their eye on the ball, and the ball is either the sales, the production, the revenue, HR, personnel, etc. Making sure my half a dozen employees are happy so they don't leave me to go somewhere else. I have a $200 million client in Bakersfield, California I'm working with. Phenomenal company. Their trajectory, they are just rock stars, and as long as they stay focused, their rock star is not going to end for a long time, if not ever, because they're tied to food. One thing that's going to happen, even in tough times, people are going to eat, people are going to sleep, and people will go out for some kind of minimum entertainment, movies or something. You look at the last 150 years in our country, in every recession or depression, three things that are the last to get killed off are going to be food, where I live, and some kind of an entertainment. Show, the park, there's always a minimum something. The big extravagant entertainment, that's going to disappear real fast. So they're in food. And so with that, coming to Bakersfield in the next year is going to be three huge distribution centers, one by a little company called Amazon, Amazon, another one by a little company, fill in the blank, but 3 major companies. So your mid-level and entry-level employees to any business, that's a labor force that can do anything because you can teach them. You can train them. So they've got to be doing something to keep their employees, which kind of goes back to your question. So again, they have to be compartmentalized to say, okay, that's one compartment of how are we going to get our entry-level staff. We better start treating them really good. So when the new guy comes to town, they've got to offer them a whole lot to get these people to leave.
Yes.
Walmart. One of the reasons why Walmart's able to fight unionization every time it pops up is because if you look at what unions are fighting to get their employees to have, if we unionize in the organization will have to give you this. Well, what unions usually put out on a sheet of paper, this is what you get by joining a union, is actually a huge step down than what you're already getting if you're working at Walmart. So again, why unionize if I'm going to get paid less, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one of the reasons why they've always had a hard time getting over that hurdle. Same thing in essence with your people. So same thing with my client example in Bakersfield. Huge.
Powerful.
Wow. You know what? I wish we could go for another hour because the information you shared with us,
thank you,
absolutely phenomenal. So I'm listening to the podcast right now. I want more of Dr. Jeff Magee. What do I do? Where do I go? Tell us how people can find out more about you.
And thank you very much because it's very gracious for you to ask that. There's 2 ways they can better connect with me. So one is going to be my website, which is my name, jeffreymagee.com. So it's Jeffrey, and Magee is spelled MAGEE. So if you go to jeffreymagee.com, you can find out all about me, how I can serve you. We have programs we can bring into organizations to help to accelerate your organization. We have online portal if you individually just want to grow and develop yourself. I've got my own online LMS for both personal development and sales. If you want to come to a program I'm doing, it's open enrollment to the public. Go to the events tab, click on that. There's 2 programs I do throughout the course of the year that anyone can come to, no matter what your capacity is. And we're doing one this month, Performance-Driven Selling Boot Camp here in Las Vegas. So if you are a solo practitioner, you have a sales team, a sales manager, I highly encourage you that you need to be here. Matter of fact, I'll make an offer to your viewers. You come to the program, and at the end of day 1, if you're not getting value, I'll reimburse you your money, and you can come back for day 2.
Wow!
Second offer.
Oh, come on!
I'll put my skin on the game that I'm gonna make it worth your time. Second offer on the performance-driven selling is the early bird is basically $987 to come as a person. If you purchase 1 seat, I'll let you bring a person with you, a second one free. So I'll give you 2 offers on that one. So that's one way.
Incredible.
You bet. I do a weekly blog. That's the buzzword today. For us old people, it would be called an online article. But I do a weekly blog, and these are free, and I don't sell anything on my blogs. I'm not doing hype. I don't talk about current events. Heavy, hard-hitting, substantive meat. So if you want one on revenue generation and sales, whether you're in sales or not, if you want that one, go to my website, sign up for the sales article. If you want something on leadership, so I have sales mastery, leadership mastery, and personal mastery, 3 different articles. If you want to talk to me live, there's a pop-up on my website as soon as you go there that says talk to me, and if you want to ask and set up a time to talk to me, I'd be more than happy to help you out that way. So those are elements. Second website, another company I've owned for 25 years is called Professional Performance Magazine.com. So professionalperformancemagazine.com comes out quarterly. We have 417,000 readers. It's very substantial. Every issue I get major political leaders, religious leaders, tribal Indian chiefs, rock star athletes, musicians, New York Times bestselling authors, business leaders from around the world write articles on Success in this magazine. So regardless of their political or religious views, that's not transferred in their articles. It's going to be obvious if I have President Obama's written for me that he's a Democrat. If I have President Trump, he's a Republican. If I have Joel Osteen, he's coming at it from an evangelical Christian standpoint. But it's articles on success in business in there. Richard Branson and I have written 2 books together, and he writes in my magazine on an almost regular basis. So those are the 2 websites, jeffreymagee.com, professionalperformancemagazine.com, and those are ways I can help. Does that answer?
That's huge. Listen, folks, you may not know Dr. Magee, but for those of you that are listening to the show, you certainly know me. I'm getting nothing for the endorsement I'm about to give you, but the offer that Dr. Magee just had provided is absolutely incredible. You can't get this type of training at the price point that he just provided to you. It just doesn't exist. You can get people that can come in and say, hey, I'm going to give you training, I'm going to charge you a few bucks, but you're not going to get the caliber of training that you're going to get from Dr. Magee. This is a gentleman that's hired by the top organizations in the world, and you can get them for, $1,000. That's incredible. And then you get to bring a person for free. If you don't find value on day 1, you get your money back. Incredible. I would absolutely give it, I am absolutely giving it my 100% endorsement, because this is someone that I followed in my sales career, and he made me successful as a salesperson. So Dr. Magee,
Thank you, sir.
thank you. And for those of you that are listening, absolutely take advantage of this offer. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Thank you much.
Absolutely.
Deborah, you have anything else to add? Probably not, but let's see.
You two are crack up. I love it.
Well, Dr. Magee, we really appreciate you being on the show today. I mean, this was powerful.
Thank you. Hopefully it was a fast hour for everybody.
It was, yeah. I mean, come on. If you're looking to make any changes, whether it's personally or professionally, then what you provided today is of value. And we appreciate you bringing it.
Thank you.
So, and it's hard to imagine that Stormie has any relationship with you, because, I mean, that hasn't rubbed off on him quite yet.
Stormie has opened up a lot of doors. You two both have opened up doors. I greatly appreciate you. And in reverse, let me do a reverse plug. If you're looking for online media marketing, social media marketing, viral marketing, branding of what you do, again, Yokel Local here in Las Vegas, this is their company. They are phenomenal at what they do. So check them out as well. So, I've been a part of their organization in terms of as a customer. I've invested in them. I've been to some of their own boot camps that you guys have done. So, let me turn that table back around on you, that if your viewers are not aware of that as well, they need to consider that. I've invested money out of my pocket. It wasn't, come have a free seat, and got great value out of it. So again, that's also another element of successful people. If you're not always investing in yourself, how in the heck can you expect the people on your team to invest in themselves, or believe that you want them to be better if you're not doing it?
Wow, that's a first. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. We'll take it.
That was not expected. Thank you kindly. We appreciate it.
For those of you that are watching this on Facebook, listen, be sure to check out our podcast. You can find our podcast, Bizruptions, wherever you get your podcast, and be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. I'm sure many of you that are listening to this on Facebook have fallen in love with this content. There's lots of other great speakers that we've had on board, so definitely come and check us out wherever you get your podcasts. With that being said, we'll see you next time on Bizruptions.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.